Thanks for logging on to Wayne.com for the Week 7 edition of Inside the Zone. As you might know, with a very sharp eye, this is not Tom Davis. This is the incomparable Reggie Hayes of the News Sentinel. We are pleased to have Reggie join us, talk some high school football. And Reggie, I know you're a high school football aficionado. You're out there every Friday night. So let's get into some of last week's games. Specifically, I know a game that you were at, East Noble at Norwell. 35-7, the Knights earn a victory. The Knights of Norwell, I should say, earn a victory. It was one of the biggest upsets. It got a little bit overshadowed by another upset that we'll talk about. But what did you see in that game? Because, like I said, you were there.
Right. Well, Norwell's had struggles all year long. They've been in halves of games, but they've never put a full game together. They've had troubles with turnovers and giving up big plays. And Friday night, they had no turnovers. They gave up no big plays. And some of those guys just, I think, got tired of losing games and had that extra resolve. East Noble may have come in thinking, okay, this is the next win, and then we move on. You know how it is. You can get that way when you're playing a team that hasn't won. So. And
with Norwell, they had the great run in the playoffs last year. They beat New Haven at New Haven in that playoff run. They won a game at home. They made it to face Dwenger in the sectional championship game. But we didn't really see a lot of the carryover that we had expected. Is this finally them getting their feet under them, and maybe throughout the rest of the season they'll be a little bit tougher, at least as far as the NHC goes?
I would think this would be a good launching pad for better play the rest of the season. I know that they've had, as I said, some moments where they looked decent and some moments where they looked, really out of sorts. So I think I talked with Reed Judy, one of the seniors, and he felt like, okay, this is the type of game like the Logansport win in the sectional was last year, where you suddenly have confidence because you've seen what you can do successfully. So I think they should play better the rest of the season.
And I think that victory on 90% of our Friday nights would have been like the upset of the night. But Wayne took on a Dwenger team who went down the week before, beat Cincinnati LaSalle in overtime, one of the best teams in the state of Ohio, and then Wayne beats them 45-6. I don't know if it's the fact that Wayne won was as much an upset as is the final score when you take a look at the differential of 39 points.
Well, Wayne's been better all season, I think. I mean, they've shown that they're improving. Robert Brown's got a program that he's building up and getting some traction. I think you're right. If they would upset them 21-20 or something, we might have said, oh, well, they must have played really well. To totally destroy them was a shock you had to look at that score 2 or 3 times to make sure that was the right score.
In the game that you were at, was that score ever broadcast, or were people like, oh my gosh, because it went from 7-0 to 10-0, 17-0, 24-0 at half. Every time you check the score, Wayne just added to it, especially in the first half, capitalizing on 4 first-half Dwenger turnovers.
Yeah, it was surprise everywhere, and I think that's a great thing about modern social media. Everybody finds out the scores right away, no matter where you're at, and that was definitely a buzz. I mean, the fact that Dwenger, who, the News Sentinel considered them to be the top team right now going into that game, to get beat that badly was just it's a shock.
I can imagine that it's not a fun time to be at a Bishop Dwenger Saints football practice this afternoon. Coach Schwarzkopf will get everything righted, but man, nobody saw that coming, especially when you talk about that margin.
They'll have work to do.
Yeah, that mustache is going to be on fire. Talking a little bit about one of the topics that's made national news. You've seen it on ESPN, CNN, Southside at Indianapolis Arsenal Tech. Certainly an unfortunate situation. You see what appears to be a late tackle from Southside player on an Indianapolis Tech player. A melee ensues. There's certainly a lot for the IHSAA to sort out. But what's your first impression when you see that video and hear everything that surrounded that incident?
Yeah, my first impression is no matter how difficult it is for coaches to pull themselves back and to do something that's against their nature to get in the middle and get maybe get physical, you've got to pull yourself back. I mean, as coaches, you have to set the tone for your players, and you cannot go into a situation like that and escalate it, which is what happened. They'll sort out who was the escalator in the situation, but the coaches are to blame. I mean, players react to coaches. They react to what they see the adults doing. Okay, that's where it escalates again, from my brief looking at the video of it.
The one thing I think that we can kind of compare it to is the Wayne Dwenger game, really the end of the game. I was actually at that game on the sideline, saw everything happen in the playoffs in 2010. What ended up happening is the IHSAA put Wayne on probation the next season. They had to wait till week 6 to see if everything was okay to allow them in the playoffs the next season. Considering this comes mid-season, with the playoffs looming, with actually a game against Wayne this Friday looming, Bobby Cox, the IHSAA commissioner, said he's going to be talking to both sides of the administration on Tuesday. What do you expect? What do you think would be a fair punishment to come out of something like this?
Boy, that's really tough to deal with, what kind of punishment you should give. I think you have to look at, they're really going to have to look hard at where it was escalating, and I still think that the coaches are the ones that have to pay the price. You talk about how it got started with the late hit. It was a late hit. It looked like it on video. It's a late hit, but that's a 15-yard penalty. That's not all of a sudden we're fighting. So I don't know if there was other things going on previously in the game that led to this becoming such a big issue. You have to look at if players were involved in punching, they've got to be suspended. Coaches definitely, I think you throw a punch as a coach, I think your career in high school should be done, frankly.
Yeah, so. No room for the Woody Hayes type stuff
Right.
on the sidelines. But going forward, assuming that they are allowed to play this Friday, which everybody assumes that they will, it's just going to be most likely suspensions. The volunteer coach that threw the first punch that you see in the video from Arsenal Tech has been removed from the program, and he's looking at pursuing some charges against a Southside coach that he was involved with. Would it be fair to both sides to just eliminate all the people that you see in that video for the rest of the season, you think, as far as the coaches go, and maybe kids suspension a game or two?
Mm-hmm. I think there is some validity to that, because you've got to judge, okay, which coaches are trying to calm the situation. I don't know if you can say, okay, that coach is in the video, he's out. So if he's trying to calm the situation, somebody's bumping him while he's trying to calm it, then I'm okay with that. He's trying to play peacemaker. If you can delineate that, or you can figure that out from a video, it's
right.
difficult. But anyone who's, making the situation get more volatile, they need to be out. Yeah, so I think that's fair. Yeah.